that if you fail to plan, that means you plan to fail. But enlightenment is key, which is the reason for this discourse today. As I sit here, I'm listening to you, I'm hearing you, but I'm still thinking, with what I earn and what I have saved, at what point will I really own my own real estate? But perhaps, I'll begin to work on that, because planning really is key. I don't want to stay in a rented apartment for the rest of my life, and I'm sure I'm speaking the minds of a good number of people. Before I talk about a peculiar traffic situation in Lagos, peculiar not world over, but in Nigeria, traffic in Lagos is always a topic for discourse anywhere in Nigeria you go, and maybe even elsewhere. Let's the example you just gave about consulting with firms and how you can help staff to own their own real estate. Is it the same thing as the public-private partnership? Or is that one facet of it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Public-private partnership have become a very popular word in our society today. And it simply derives from the fact that one party cannot accomplish the objectives of a group, a society, or, the seminal point was actually in our industry, in real estate, where a lot of people owned prime location lands and didn't have the resources at the time to develop it to yield the optimum returns. So they found investors who got involved and they collaborated to do those things. So it went beyond individuals' desire to develop their real estate, and then it went national, where the simple logic is, listen, government today cannot provide all that we need in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the services, in terms of all that. So people sit down to say, okay, but then the society needs these services. How do we deliver on them? So different kinds of arrangements have ensued. The most popular in the country today is where a concession is given to somebody to do those things. I mean, we have the Lekki. Correct. That's a clear example. But, coming from my training and exposure, I have worked for a fund that came from America. It was codenamed Doing Good While Doing Well. Simply put, they try to get involved in projects that can drive economic development, social advancement, and then also make profits. So, and this fund went to do something in India for which we were involved. And I saw a different pattern of PPP, which I think, in all considerations, we share similarities with that society, the way I saw it, right?
Wow. What's our similarity?
The similarity is that in trying to focus on the delivery of these services, you must not ignore the power of the citizens in their earning and their ability to be able to keep up with the pressures these arrangements bring on them. And you also need to be careful to know whether you are introducing something that runs on a clearly capitalist system, or whether there are arrangements where there is a welfare tendency to create some soft landing by government institutions and all that. But look at the way I can frame it so that we can have an intelligent analysis between what has happened and what happened there. This was also a road project and a rail project, okay? And what government said was, we cannot at this time afford to pay for this service to be delivered. So they spoke with these people who had the funds, who were coming to do it, who had the skill sets too. And they agreed on the price of that project, which is fundamental. Let's say for the purposes of this discourse that the price was 1 million. And government said we cannot afford to pay 1 million, but we can afford to pay 1 million after a 12-year term. So between the government and this fund provider, they had a 12-year contract on an understood interest rate. So what government did was every year of those 12 years, they paid 1 million, 10% of the agreed sum, plus an interest element. Because if you create a PPP where there is no clarity about knowing when the people have recouped their funds, how much profit they are making, when your citizens are paying for this, it becomes bizarre.